Welcome to the Rex Andrews Show. Glad to have you. If you are a first-time listener, welcome. Glad to have you aboard. And if you're a return listener, I want to say thank you. And the reason for the thank you is we just learned recently that we're in the top 10% fastest growing podcasts out there. And that's a big thank you to you because there are more than 1 million podcasters in the iTunes store these days. So we are found on just about every platform you can think of for podcasting. So you can pick and choose your favorites on 23 different platforms. You can also find the show at my website at rexandrewshow.com. One last little bit of housekeeping is we have the request always to subscribe and then also comment if you feel necessary. And one quick recognition to our main sponsor, our good friends at Wealth Management Group. They are asset and retirement and wealth planners. They do amazing work. They work in every state in the United States. They don't sell products. They help you achieve your financial goals. Great team to work with. Their website is wealthmanagement.estate. That's wealthmanagement.estate. All right, so we got all the stuff out of the way. We've got to pay the bills, got to get all the details. I'm really excited about our guest today on the show. Amazing story. I've only seen the tip of it, but I think you're going to be blown away. He's an author, a podcaster, has a lot of programs for self-improvement and those types of things, but there's a huge backstory that gets him here. So welcome to the show today. Can't wait to hear this and unpack it all. I've got with me this morning, Nelson Tressler. Nelson, how are you this morning?
Doing well, Rex. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, it's good to have you. Now, you're up to quite a few things right now. I hear you've got a book out there and on Amazon, all stuff. So let's mention that real quick, but then we're going to go dive into the history of all this.
Sure. Yeah. No, I wrote a book, got released in November. It's called The Unlucky Sperm Club. You are not a victim of your circumstances, but a product of your choices. And it is available on anywhere books are sold. It's also on Audible.
Okay, fantastic. We'll dive into that journey too, because writing a book is not just a walk in the park, as you know.
No, it's not.
All right, so you know what attracted me when I was hunting down bookings in the last little bit was you've got an interesting backstory. It involves murder, rape, and all kinds of stuff. So we always want to know what led to the person we are today. Life is like crossing a stream. We hop from rock to rock to rock. Hopefully we get to the other side. Sometimes we fall off, sometimes we have to backtrack, but we always keep pushing. So let's start off with those rocks. Let's hear where your story started. So I hear that most of this stuff started out when you were just a child.
Well, actually, it started before I was born. You know, my mom became pregnant with me when she was 15 years old. And while she was pregnant with me, her father, the local trash collector in a small town in Pennsylvania, drove into the town square. There he spotted 2 police officers. He stuck a gun out the window and opened fire on those police officers, killing one and critically wounding another. And eventually my grandfather was captured and brought to stand trial where he was facing the death penalty for what he had done. And during my grandfather's trial, my mom got up and testified that the reason that her father had shot and killed that police officer was that that police officer had raped her, and she was now pregnant with his baby, who was me. And
oh my goodness.
And my mom's testimony worked. The first trial ended in a hung jury. However, the second trial ended with my grandfather being sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, where he ended up spending more than 40 years in prison, letting behind, me, my mom. My mom's one of 15 children, and me in this small town to deal with the consequences in the wake of what he had done. My life didn't get any easier from that. I'm the child of a 15-year-old mother. Eventually, my mom meets a man. Come to find out, he's an alcoholic. He's very, emotionally and physically abusive to me and my mom. They eventually have 4 children in quick succession. And because of the lifestyle they're living, a lot of the basic needs of my siblings fall upon me. We're very poor, no food in the house, poor. And, it falls upon me to to help take care of the kids, feeding and diaper changing and waking up at 2 a.m. to put babies back to sleep. And as you can imagine, this has a huge effect on my life. I remember going to school in the 4th grade, that, the last day of school, and you're excited, to see where you're going to go, who you're going to have for homeroom in 5th grade, and if you're going to be with all your buddies. And I remember looking down at my report card and seeing that I had straight Fs and that I would be repeating the 4th grade. And it shouldn't have come to any surprise. I probably missed 40 or 50 days of school that year. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I can't spell. And so the next year I was placed into special ed to get the help that I needed. And then one day, my stepfather was walking home drunk from a bar, and there was somebody else driving home drunk from that bar, and they ended up hitting and killing him.
Oh, my word.
And at this time that my mother, here she is, she has 5 small children. She's dropped out of school in the 8th grade. She's never worked outside of the home. And as bad as her life has been with my stepfather, and, losing him pretty much left her with no scenario where she was going to be able to take care of these 5 children on her own. And it's at this time that she decided to take her own life. And she attempted suicide. And fortunately, she was not successful. But whenever she got out of the hospital, it was at that time that she determined that she wasn't going to be able to care for all of us. And that's when my family got split up. And I went to go live with my grandmother, who was the wife of the man who shot and killed the police officer, and moved in with her. And then that's kind of the break in the road, where my life, I got out of that environment. I didn't have to worry about my stepfather coming home drunk and beating me or my mom. And I didn't have to worry about not having food in the house, or, the lights turning on whenever you hit the switch, or having heat in the winter. So I started to really reflect upon the direction my life was heading. And I determined it was heading somewhere where I didn't want it to go. And that's when one day a counselor came from the local university, and I was in around 7th grade at this time. And they started talking about what you needed to do to get into college. And that's kind of, I started to think, what, if I could go to college, all my problems would be solved. I'd have this great life. And I started to think, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And we all know what happens when you tell yourself you're going to try to do something that's difficult or hard.
Yeah.
And that voice in the back of your head just starts screaming at you all the reasons that you shouldn't even try it. And I remember thinking, quickly after thinking I was going to go to college, that voice yelling at me, Nelson, you're in special ed. You can't read, you can't write, you can't spell. Of the family that I came from, of my mom's 15 brothers and sisters, only 2 had ever gone to high school. None had ever gone to college. But it was at a point in my life where I had no other choice. So I started to do the things that I thought would get me into college. And it was not easy. I mean, it wasn't a switch. I still got a lot of Fs, a lot of Ds sprinkled with a C or B. But eventually it took me 12 years after making that goal. It took me 4 different universities. It took me 4 years in the United States Air Force, but eventually I became that first person in my family to graduate from college.
Nelson, I'm almost worn out from listening to that.
Sorry, I got going there.
No, I expected the pivot point to be a lot earlier. Holy cow. I've interviewed, this is what I do for this show. I've interviewed all kinds of people. And I'm just sitting here listening to you, and I'm thinking, when does this end for this poor guy? Holy cow. So let's unpack a little bit of this. That I can't even imagine. Against All Odds. I mean, there was that movie clear back in the 80s, Against All Odds. So your mom is one of 15, and your grandfather was basically a trashman, right?
Yeah.
So you weren't living high in the hog in the first place, right? It was pretty much a poverty family, pretty much, as far as her family.
My mom, they were in a 2-bedroom house, no indoor plumbing. And don't ask me how you get 15 kids in a 2-bedroom house, not how you fit 15 kids. I can figure that out. How do
Yeah.
you make 15 kids in a 2-bedroom house? But
Oh my goodness.
somehow they did it. And, but yeah, no indoor plumbing. I remember I was like 3 or 4 years old when the indoor plumbing got placed in that house. They had an outhouse out behind. So yeah, it was not an easy life for any of those kids or anybody coming up. So
That's crazy. Okay, so that's the foundation is you're starting from pretty much a level of poverty in the first place. I'm not trying to be mean to anybody. That's just the facts of what it is. Okay. 17 people in a 2-bedroom house. I'm assuming this wasn't in like a major metropolitan area. It was probably a rural town then.
yeah, 6,000 people.
6,000 people.
And there weren't, these kids, of course, were spread out over
Sure.
time. So I don't know, when I was there, there wasn't, I think there were only 2 or maybe 3 people still living of my grand's children were still living in the house. But because of the saint that my gram was, she always had other cousins who were living there for whatever reason.
Wow.
So,
That's crazy.
we probably had 5 other cousins that my gram was raising there with me, and then a couple of her own kids.
Whew. So your mom then gets raped by one of the police officers there in the town.
So in my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club, there are a lot of twists and turns.
Okay.
Well,
I knew there were, because that's why I was like stopping you. We got to go back and unpack some of this. So yeah, let's go back a little bit and let's learn a little bit further.
Well, and I don't want to, my book kind of explains it and gets into all those details.
Sure, to put some high level. Yeah.
Yeah. So what everything happened. But, as I sit here today, I still don't know who my father is for sure.
For sure. Okay. So it's assumed that the police officer, we'll leave it at that, rapes your mother. Your dad finds out about it, takes vengeance in his own hand, a little bit of Western.
My grandfather.
Your grandfather, I'm sorry. Your grandfather takes a little bit of Western justice and seeks the guy out that he thinks is the one and shoots him, kills him, and injures the other officer too that was there. I mean, this is a TV movie. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
I keep waiting for Tom Hanks to call me, but he hasn't called yet.
Well, maybe you need somebody a little more. Maybe you need somebody that's a little more handsome. Pick somebody out, Leonardo DiCaprio or something. I don't know. So you basically, your family is going through a murder case. Okay, tried twice, not just once, but twice. Hung jury the first time, conviction the second time. Your grandfather's sent off to prison, so that means at least half of the home's income is gone, right?
100%.
100%. Wow. And then your mom is forced to drop out of school, has you as a child, and then eventually marries another gentleman, has 4 more kids. Then he's killed, wipes out her income, and then she tries to commit suicide.
That's it.
Whew. Wow. I hope you don't buy lottery tickets, because I don't think your life started off with a whole lot of luck. Holy cow. And I'm not trying to make light of any of this. Nelson, I'm not sure if I bumped into anyone at any level that's had that type of a start.
Hence the title, The Unlucky Sperm Club. But you know what? I tell my backstory just to kind of show people that, you know what, things can be hard for you. But as I said here today, it couldn't be any more polar opposite.
Yeah.
I've been married to my wife for 25 years.
Uh-huh.
We have 3 very productive, young men that we've raised that are off to super productive lives. I've had huge success in business and in sales. I've become the #1 salesman worldwide for a top 5 commercial real estate firm. I've started more than 10 businesses. I've been including one of the largest privately held pet resorts in the country. And now I've started a business called I Got Smarter, which is a goal achievement program that's associated with an app to help other people see the power of goals in their own lives. Because the way that my life changed directions was with that one goal. it didn't change my life right there when I set that
Sure.
goal, but it absolutely changed the direction of my life. And that's what I want to do for other people and help other people realize that goals and goals aren't just for the people who are setting them and achieving them. Goals are generational.
Sure.
As I said here, my family is in a much different situation than I was. And that's just one generation. And that all started with one goal. And that's what I want people to realize is you set a goal and work hard at it. And as I said here, 20 years after graduating college, I became obsessed with goals and personal development and used them in every area of my life. And I started to work at designing the life that I wanted to live. And that's what I want people to realize too, is you get to design that life. You can't just sit back and expect that you're going to live the life that you want to live or even end up where you want to end up if you're not living your life with purpose. And that's what I Got Smarter does for people.
Well, that's fantastic. So still I want to unpack a little bit more of this. I have always had as a hobby of being a person who studies biographies. And it's really interesting because you see that most great successes, like the one that you've been through, have come through many, many times in situations of severe struggle. Okay, severe struggle. One that comes to mind real quick off the top of my head is Milton Hershey, the founder of Hershey's chocolate. He filed bankruptcy in the chocolate and in the candy business 7 times before he finally got it right. And so when you study the human condition and study people, it's generally people who've had not just struggle, but immense struggle, who actually do really big things and turn their lives 180. And I think a commonality that I've learned through my interviews with people and studying people and the people I've met, because everybody's an interesting story. And you may have just pushed yourself to the front of the line on that one, Nelson, based on where you're started. There's an old saying, it doesn't matter where you start, it's where you end. But you had a very, very big set of odds stacked against you. And what I don't think most people understand is when you're in survival mode, like you were, right? I mean, you grew up in survival mode, not enough to eat, no food in the house, the electricity on and off, yada, yada, yada. You can go down the list of things. And so you become in survival mode. And what I think, and I think that I can see parts of this gleaning through your story, is when you're in survival mode, you kick into a different gear. You have a different focus, and you wanted to go to school, you wanted to get graduated. And so that was a survival mechanism. It was survival. So unconsciously, you pretty much took the energy of survival and turned it into away from surviving and into eventually thriving. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, and I talk about this in the Unlucky Sperm Club, and you talk about all the trials that people have gone through in their lives and they become successful. I mean, I've used all of my hardships as fuel,
Yeah.
and to fuel me to where I want to go. And I look at that as a blessing. I mean, of course I didn't when I was going through it,
Sure.
but one thing that I truly believe is that you get to give meaning to everything that happens to you in your life. And for the longest time, I gave these events a negative meaning. They weakened me. And, I felt like a victim, like, why me? I didn't do any of this stuff. But eventually I started to give them a positive meaning. Like, you know what? I lived through this. Never be ashamed of a scar, because it just shows that you were stronger than what tried to kill you. And
That's
then
right.
it started to really inspire me and motivate me to help other people who are going through tough situations and find themselves in hard circumstances, to realize that you're not a victim of that. You're a product of your choices. And if you want to find yourself in a different circumstances, in a different spot, start making different choices. And because of what I went through, I knew that I could get through hard things. I knew I could accomplish things if I put my mind to it. And now all of a sudden, when I share this story, which nobody knew this story, whenever I moved away from that small town, the only person I ever told that story to was my wife before I married her. And I
Wow.
figured she deserved to know what she was getting herself into. But I never told my children, I never told my friends or my coworkers or anybody, because it weakened me. I was running from those events.
Right.
But then whenever I got to the point where I was determining what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, I started to reflect upon my story and why I'd lived the life I've lived. And it came crystal clear to me that I needed to share my story with people to realize that they too could do it. If one of us can do it, any of us can do it. And that's why I wrote the book. And that's why I came up with this program, I Got Smarter, to give people all the tools, the knowledge, and the support they need to live the life that they want to live.
So in your home environment growing up, back to your memories, did your mom instill a worth ethic, and your stepfather, did they instill a work ethic into you, or were they just struggling themselves and weren't able to help you with that angle?
Yeah, no, they were struggling. I mean, it was definitely not, perseverance. My mom definitely taught me perseverance. She also taught me that, where there's a will, there is a way. I mean, one of the stories in my book, I talked a little bit about our lights always being turned off. And I remember I was a young kid and somebody knocked at the door and I was excited. I went to the door and it was a guy there, and he looked professional. He had his name on a tag on his shirt and he asked for Mitzi Tressler. And I'm like, Mitzi Tressler? And my mom comes up and asks, okay, what can I help you with? And he says, Mitzi Tressler here. And my mom says, no. And I'm like, well, yes, she is. I just saw her. And so I leave and my mom continues the conversation and I go out and I grab my cat, my Siamese cat that we have, and I bring him to the door and I'm like, they're going to appreciate it because, I found her. And I come up and, the guy's asking her, well, when's Mitzi going to be back? And my mom says, in a couple of days. And I'm like, no, Mom, here she is.
Oh, the cat.
The guy looks at me and he looks at her and he's like, you didn't do that, did you? And she's like, yeah, I did. And it was the guy from the power company. And my mom had put the power bill in the cat's name because it had gotten shut off when it was in her name. And it got shut off when she put it in my name. And it got shut off when she put it in my brother. So she just realized, like, you know what? Resources cannot be our problem because we have no resources. It's about becoming resourceful. And so she definitely taught me that somehow you gotta figure it out and get things done. And that's all she could ever do.
So growing up in your mom and your stepfather's home, did you have chores and things like that, or were you left on your own a lot because they were basically trying to put food on the table?
Yeah, no, there were no chores. I mean, I definitely cared for my siblings, so there
Sure.
was a lot of that going on. But yeah, no, definitely not a stable household at all. I mean, you were strictly in survival mode.
Survival mode.
There was no, hey, you're going to clean this or fix your bed or do any of that. I learned a lot of that stuff, in the military, and I think those were kind of like, people are depending on you. You have to do what you're supposed to do or what you say you're going to do. So I think a lot of that came later on in my life. And especially as I really dug into personal development and learned all those strategies and methods, I think that's kind of where a lot of that came from in my life.
Well, the reason I asked that is because a lot of times people can go through tons of struggle, but if they have a good foundation of work ethic, now obviously you saw examples of persistence, maybe not the kind you were in love with, okay, putting the utility bills in the cat's name. I think that's the first time I've heard that. But the reason I ask and went down that path is because a work ethic can really make a difference in people's lives. So not only did you have this environment of survival, you weren't even given some basic skills that will, put yourself to work, put your shoulder to the wheel type thing.
Well, one thing I think that really helped me out is I got signed up for youth sports after my stepfather had died, and I got placed into the Big Brother, Big Sister program and had a great big brother and, his wife, who showed me some contrast, showed me how, families can be as opposed to the family that I was in at that time. And also in sports, you know, they showed you the dedication and the hard work and how it pays off. So I learned a lot of those strategies and techniques, I think, through that. And that's eventually how I ended up getting into college. The first time was I ended up going to play football for a school. I would have never gotten into college. I mean, they were willing, because they wanted me to come play football for them. They were willing to massage those admission requirements. And,
Right.
you know, I'm not talking Swedish massage here. I'm talking tissue,
Deep
elbow in
tissue.
the back, tears coming out the side of your eyes, massage. So,
Never heard it put that way. Yeah, that's great.
but I got in, and you know, eventually I still couldn't afford to go to school, and then that's when I had to join the Air Force. And that's the way life goes. Like,
Sure.
you're trying to achieve these goals, and there's always going to be those hurdles. But the great thing about a hurdle is you have to grow to get over it. You have to get,
Yep.
you know, go up and above it to get over it. And those are the things. Every time I hit a struggle or a hurdle in my life, I understand that I have to grow as a person in order to get through this. And that's why I want to continue to always be growing, continue to always try to reach my potential. And I think that's a life lesson that all of us could learn from, is always strive to become your best. Because if you looked at me, you know, when I graduated high school, and you look at me now, most people stop, you know, learning when they're out of school, whatever level that is, even if it's college. And that's one of the things that I've never stopped doing, is I love to learn. And I listen to, you know, 2-3 books a week in my car, and just continue to learn my whole life. And I'm going to continue to do that the rest of my life.
So, you know, it's interesting. I'm kind of thinking about what's going on in our culture today, and what's happening here in the United States, is for all the chaos that's happening here in our society. And I couldn't help but giggle to myself. It just sounds like you missed out on all your privilege.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I think guys our age, where's all my privilege? I don't think I got subscribed to that one. So definitely you didn't catch that one. So it really sounds like you had some then really solid influences: the Bigger Brother program, the sports, the Air Force. Was the Air Force the place that you really tightened it all up and just said, okay, because that's a swim, can't talk today. That's a sink or swim environment. Was that the place that it kind of all came together then for you?
Well, I think I learned a lot of skills, and I definitely learned responsibility. And, you know, the Air Force is not like the Marines or the Army. It's very detail oriented.
Okay.
And so, and I'm not a detail guy, but I had to learn that. Like, when I worked on aircraft, and, you know, people's lives are in your hands if you screw up. And
Yep.
so I learned that I had to really pay attention to the details. So that definitely taught me that. And it taught me that other people are depending on you. Those pilots are depending on you, you know, to do your job properly. And they're putting their lives in your hands. And so that really opened my eyes up to, you know, being responsible, doing what you know you're supposed to do all the time,
Yep.
and doing your best job at it. So yeah, the Air Force was a huge influence on me. And that's one of those things, is, again, it definitely changed my life, but more importantly, I think it changed the direction of my life. And I keep, you know, I look back on my life, and I see all these things that actually changed the direction of my life. And I think that's where people who are not where they want to be, they want to be transported to where they want to be instantly. And that's not how life works. That's not the way it's supposed to work. What they should be looking for are these choices that will change the direction of their lives and get them heading in the right direction, and see where they can end up in, you know, a month or a year or 10 years or 20 years. Because if you're heading in that direction, all you have to do is keep going. And if you're not, no matter what you do, you're getting further away from where you want to go.
Well, I have a good friend that's a pilot, and correlating this to your Air Force experience and time, he always has told me, he said, my success today as a pilot is based on the guy who turned the last bolt.
Absolutely.
And he was always humble about it because, a lot of accolades, flew the bird clear across here, whatever. And he's like, no, my success is based on the guy that turned that last bolt. So that's a great lesson that you learned. So how old were you now? You said it took you 12 years to get through this odyssey. How old were you when you got out of the Air Force?
Well, I went in, I was probably 24.
Okay.
And then it took me 3 more years after getting out of the Air Force to get my
your
college
degree.
degree. Yeah.
Wow. So a college graduate at 27, 28 then?
Yep.
Wow, that's great. Sometimes in life, we just have to find our own way, and there is no set path. And I think you're very to be commended because you just didn't give up, because so many things in this world, if we don't fit in the conventional process, people can feel like they're a failure. So fast forwarding after you got your degree, or how did you meet your wife, and when did your family life start to come into play?
Yeah, so I met my wife. I came to Las Vegas on a temporary duty and ended up meeting her with a couple weeks left to go, and fell in love, and we long distance thing for a year.
Okay.
Got married. She moved back to New Mexico, where I was stationed for my last 9 months of service. And then we came to Las Vegas, and she ended up, her dad's a dentist. So she went to work for her father and kind of helped me work through school. I started a window cleaning business, and, for 3 years, and ended up graduating from college. Then I went into commercial real estate through an internship. Had no idea what commercial real estate was, but I needed an internship.
Sure.
So I got into that and realized that I had a knack for helping people, find good real estate, and working as a middleman between, landlords and tenants and buyers and sellers. And that ended up being a great career for me. I loved it and did it for 20 years. And through that, I ended up being exposed to a lot of other business opportunities, including, I ended up building out, a children's daycare chain here in Las Vegas of 6 children's daycares. I've been involved in tanning salons and commercial rock yards and trampoline parks.
Wow.
And ended up, like I said earlier, building out one of the largest privately held pet resorts in the country. So just saw opportunity wherever it was, and just went for it, and realized, you heard my backstory. No one expected anything out of me except, so I just went for it, and did my best, and never quit. I mean, I think you touched on that. You can only fail if you quit.
That's right.
And somehow, I was blessed with that part of my mind that doesn't quit, or, somebody tell me I can't do something, and I'm going to show them that I absolutely can. And not only am I going to be able to do it, I'm going to do it better than anybody else has ever done it.
Wow. So you've had all these successes, all these different businesses. It would almost, someone could accuse you of a little bit of ADD. I mean, it wasn't like you're always in the related business. I mean, you've done all kinds of things.
Yeah. And that was one of the things. I mean, I just see opportunities in so many things.
Sure.
And see a way of solving problems, or what people would like. And I like getting in it. I like being busy. And I don't like downtime, and being involved in a lot of different things definitely helped me with that. So, yeah.
I'm assuming that your reaction to this victim culture we have in our current society, that probably drives you bananas.
Makes me sick. I mean, and you know what? It doesn't make me sick because it's out there. It makes me sick that it's being spread out there, and then people start to believe it, that they are victims, because that's who's really suffering because of this, is because now they have an excuse, and now they've given away control of their success, control of their lives to whatever they're hanging their hat on of being a victim. And as soon as you give away control, now you can't change your circumstances, because either this person has to change,
Yep.
or the government needs to change, the economy needs to change, and anything that you want to give control over your success, now you've got to wait for that to change. But like my book title says, you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're a product of your choices. As soon as you take 100% responsibility for your success, that's when your life will change, because now I'm in control. And there are things that happen to me that might make it harder, that might give me a struggle. But as long as I'm in control, then whatever I do, I can get us out of this, and I can start to make choices that are going to help me. And what people who are stuck in that victim mindset need to realize is they're giving away all the power.
Yeah.
And it might feel better to be able to point your finger and say, I'm this way because of my parents, or I'm this way because of my boss or my spouse or my kids or whatever. As soon as you do that, you've given away all the power, and now you're just going to sit back and you're going to live a life without purpose and without direction, because you don't feel like you're in control. But as soon as you say, you know what, I'm 100% in control of my success, and everything that, is going to happen to me is going to happen to me because of me, that's when you're in control. And then that's when you can start to finally, live the life that you want to live.
So, yeah, interesting thought that came to my head. Well, maybe it's interesting, is, where most people are taught in life that you focus on the things that you can control, that you can contain, you can change. Well, if you have a victimology perspective, that you're a victim, and you give up that control to something you can't control, then you're toast. You're done.
It's insanity. I
Yeah.
mean, it's truly insanity. It's insanity to worry about things that you cannot control.
And then if you hand that responsibility to the things you can't control, what are you doing? Why are you breathing?
Exactly.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's crazy. No, as a kid that grew up with a farm background, my grandparents had a very large ranch, and we worked and worked and worked. And I always tell people my success is mostly because we had to work and we had to persist, because there are a lot of times when something happened on the farm, you didn't know how to fix it, but you figured out a way. That's how you did. So when I see this current culture, and I don't know if it's age specific right now, I just shake my head, because nobody's a victim. Right? I mean, I agree with you 100%. And you have to be able to be inventive and ingenious and those types of things to get through, because life's just not handed to us. So,
yeah, I mean, one of the things I realized going back to the Air Force is I got to serve overseas in Turkey and Saudi Arabia.
Oh my!
And the one thing that taught me was I saw orphans on the street in Turkey begging for food to survive another day.
Yeah.
I mean, and in Saudi Arabia, I saw where women were in black robes, and I walked down an aisle and they literally ran from me because they weren't allowed to be in the same aisle as me. And what that taught me was, no matter how hard your situation is, there are people praying to be in your situation. And that's when the victim really got hammered out of me, was these kids on the street would have killed to be in my situation as a child. And that helps me every time I start to feel sorry for myself. I realize, there's somebody out there that would kill to be in your situation, to have to deal with your type of problems.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences in traveling through Central and South America, where you just see poverty beyond your mind to envision it, and you realize that in most cases in the United States, we live in Disneyland in a lot of ways. And one of the things that frustrates me now in our current culture and environment, and I don't try to get into politics and those things, it's not the intent of the show, but when you see some of these kids running around with $250 sneakers and jewelry around their neck and $1,000 smartphone, and they're claiming to be oppressed, sorry, I'm not going to buy that one. Not going to buy that one at all. You need to go to a third world country, spend a couple of weeks there, and you'll feel like how impressed you are. So fantastic. So fast forward up, what motivated you to finally write this book? Now, I'm not going to claim that you don't have the motor to write one, okay? And this is a logical step in your life because you have been and demonstrated to be somewhat of the Energizer Bunny guy. I mean, you're just go, go, go. So what was the tipping point that made you decide to write the book?
Yeah, I mean, it was not an easy thing to even contemplate. I mean, as I said here today, I still cannot spell. So, I mean, I have dyslexia, and it's a struggle, but I felt like I needed to get my story out there to show other people that, you're not a victim of your circumstances, that you can change your life around no matter how hard your situation is. And one thing I want to make clear, I definitely lived a rough life,
Yeah.
but everybody, who's in a tough situation is living a rough life. They're all different and they're all a struggle to get through. But when you want to get through it, when you want to fix it, it comes down to the same things: is you need to start making different choices. One thing I truly believe is, almost without exception, we are exactly where we choose to be in our lives. We've chosen to be exactly where we're at, no matter what area of your life you're in. So if you don't like it, if you don't like where you're at, or any stage of your life or category of your life, start making different choices and start heading in a different direction. And that's why I wrote the book. I wanted to tell my story. I wanted people to inspire people to take control of their lives and change. And I also wanted, people to realize how important goals can be in your life, and how they can not only make a difference in your life, but make a difference in the generations to follow.
Okay, so you got the book written, got it published. Now, did you have the app prior to this, or was the app something that you did as in parallel or after the book was out?
Parallel. Yeah,
Okay.
I was working on the app, and in fact, I've had to shift gears with the model of the app, because the original app was called 6 Months to Success, and people met in person in groups,
Ah, okay.
and they had a goal guide over them, helping them achieve their goals. But with COVID, meeting in groups was no longer fashionable. So that's when we decided to come up with I Got Smarter, which is the program that was found in 6 Months to Success. And we wanted to put that out there on the App Store so that people could use our program by themselves, or we allow them to invite a success partner into the app with them. And then you see real time what your partner's doing. Every morning we start with a morning ritual. And then you check it pretty much populates and plans out your day for you, but your success partner sees whether or not you've done that or not. Your
Okay.
success partner sees the fact that you've checked something off of your to-do list. And then every night we have an evening ritual where we're reflecting upon our day and determining, did we really give it our all? What do we need to do better the next day? And again, your success partner is there to help you. And what I could do, Rex, is like, if it's 11:30, I get an alert and it says, hey, Rex didn't do his morning ritual. Now I can kind of get in there and say, hey, Rex, let's get that day planned, man. Let's keep the momentum going. And it's not an accountability partner. You're not accountable to me. You're accountable to yourself. These are your goals. These are your dreams. I'm your success partner. I'm here to support you, encourage you, and motivate you to do what you said you were going to do. You owe nothing to me, but having that success partner increases people's goal achievement by over 95% in some cases.
Wow. So does the app act as your accountability partner, or is it someone actually else?
The app definitely has reminders and will help you, remember what you said you were going to do.
Okay.
But you can invite that success partner through the app, and now you have the app reminding you. And then if you don't want to listen to the app, now you have your success partner that is going to be encouraging you, when you do it, or maybe if you didn't do it.
That's fantastic. I am one of my background experiences, I have been in application development. And actually, in about a 6-year period, my partner and I, we developed a little over 1,100 mobile applications for other people. Wow. So people had ideas and they came to us and said, well, I want to build an app. And so we would help them get their apps built. And so I just sort of chuckle because I know the complexity that's behind having those types of reminders. And then also inviting someone else in to be some of your over the shoulder accountability partner. And for some of us, like when we're married and we sort of have that built in, with our spouses, and, you might think that's the nag. So maybe I thought what Chuckled name was, I've invited my secondary nag into my life, but not just teasing, that's great. I'm very interested. I'm going to go download your app. I want to take a look at that because I've always been one that believed in goals. I fortunately got the chance to work for some professional development people way back in the day. So Tom Hopkins, a sales trainer that was based out in Arizona, and followed that industry for quite a long time. And goals are great, but they're never going to be attained unless you're constantly reviewing them and working towards them and stuff. A lot of people write goals at the beginning of the year, set them on the shelf, and then New Year's rolls around next year and they haven't done anything with them. So they don't. But I know that when I have been practical and following through on my goals, I've achieved them.
Right. Yeah, no. And that's the thing. The only goal you can achieve is the one you quit on. And one of our philosophies that I got smarter is you can accomplish any goal so long as you have enough time, enough energy, and enough focus. And you can accomplish anything in your life. And I truly believe that. And I've proven it.
So, is the book and the app sort of combined material, or are they really kind of add-ons, or how does that work with your app and your book?
No, I mean, the book kind of just tells my story. I wanted people to understand that I Got Smarter is not just some philosophies and strategies that I pulled off the internet and popped into a program and here you go. I mean, I wanted people to really understand that I live this stuff. I came from where I came from, and I'm working towards where I want to go by using these strategies, these philosophies and techniques. And I wanted people to see that and realize that they could do it too. I didn't want it to be just a bunch of fluff that I pulled off the internet and never really used in my own life.
Right.
And that's what the book kind of explains to people is these are things that, that I definitely live by and use every single day in my life.
Well, it sounds like one of the things in looking around, looking for guests and stuff, you could pave the streets of Vegas with success coaches. And a lot of them may have some unique content, but like you said, a lot of it could just be, pulled off the internet and bottled up and packaged on to the next. So it sounds like your application is not just a high level strategy. It's a tool that actually can implement what you've written about.
Yeah, because what I've realized in goal achievement, we don't have a knowledge problem. We have an execution problem.
Right.
We
exactly.
know what we need to do. I mean, if you want to lose weight, guess what? Eat less calories than you burn.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful, at sales, you got to call more people. But the knowledge is rarely the problem.
Right.
Executing on what you need to do is the problem. And that's what I Got Smarter does for you, is it helps you, one, become crystal clear on what you want to accomplish. Two is what tasks need to happen for me to achieve this goal. And you're crystal clear on what needs to happen. And then two, it's going to help you execute on what you said you were going to do. And as long as you continue, you're going to achieve your goal. If you don't quit, how can't you achieve it? So you just have to keep going. As long as you have enough time, energy, and enough focus, you're going to get there. And once people realize that they can really accomplish anything in their lives, they'll never, ever be the same.
That's fantastic advice. That's amazing. So, all right. So here's the $1 million question. What's next? Because I know you're not going to be resting on your laurels. What's next for you, Nelson?
Yeah, you know what? I want to help as many people as I can live the life of their dreams. I mean, I'm living. I couldn't even imagine the life that I'm living 30 years ago.
Right.
Let alone 45 years ago. So I want to help other people do that. And everybody wants, I want to make the world a better place. the way that I'm going to do that is by helping, one person and one inspiring goal at a time. I've got 3 boys that are going to have to raise their families in this world. And if I can do my small part by helping people reach their potential and strive to live the life dreams, that's how you make the world a better place, one at a time. And that's what I'm looking to do for the rest of my life. I never want to quit. I never feel like I'm ever reached my potential. I'm on this earth, and it's not in me to put my toes in the sand and watch waves crash on the shore. So if I'm going to be doing something, I might as well be out there changing people's lives.
That's great. So do you think you have any more books on the horizon that are you thinking through?
Yeah, the Unlucky Sperm Club has definitely some actionable items in it, but for the most part, it's telling my story, and then I give anecdotes at the end of every chapter. But I definitely want to write my book as far as like using the program I Got Smarter, and how to set goals and break those goals down into small bite-sized pieces, and how to see things through the end. So yeah, I am myself eventually writing another. Yes.
Fantastic. I tell you, Nelson, I am so glad I got you on the show today. I know our listeners are going to just absolutely love this. The comments will be fantastic. You've been an exciting story to hear. I mean, I don't mean that in a weird way, but I love stories when people rise from ashes and, do great things. And, most of us in this world will never have huge notoriety, but that's not why you do it, is what I'm assuming. So I really am thankful that you invested the time to come and share your story. And, if anybody in North America had odds stacked against them, well, you had a few of them stacked against you. And so, there's always somebody worse, but what an amazing story, what motivational. And absolutely, I will be checking out both your book and your app. One more time, if you could, for us, could give out the name of the book, and it's on Amazon and Audible, and then also the name of the app so people can download it.
Yeah. So everything is available at nelsontressler.com.
Fantastic.
The name of the book is The Unlucky Sperm Club. You are not a victim of your circumstances, but a product of your choices. And it is available everywhere books are sold, and it is in Audible on audio. And the I Got Smarter app is available at the Android and Apple. And it's I Got Smarter, which is one word. And we're actually giving away 30 free days for people to try it out.
Cool.
And after that 30 days, it's $10 a month. And if your goals aren't worth $10 a month, you need bigger goals, man.
You need bigger goals. And then, of course, you've got your podcast. What's your podcast?
The podcast is called The Unlucky Sperm Club, and we try to have people come in and share stories of where they've had trials and struggles in their lives and how they overcame it. That's really what I want to focus on, is not necessarily the struggles. I want to focus on how you overcome them and the positive that can come from those struggles. And that's what the Unlucky Sperm Club podcast is focused on.
Well, I'm going to be subscribing to that one for sure. All right. Well, this has been amazing. I know I'm going to get you back because I know that the story's not finished. No way. You've done an awesome thing to put yourself in a great position in your life. I'm sure your family feels blessed to have you as a father and leader in your family. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Rex. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Well, until next time, folks, that's the Rex Andrews Show for today. We always want to remind you that you can find us anywhere that podcasts are distributed. You can find us updates and information on the show site, rexandrewshow.com. And until next time, on the next episode, be safe, be bold, and make it a great day.